computer.
Hi, Rachel.
So welcome everybody and welcome to this session. This is the PR Hour Live, and today we're talking all about forward planning. And this is going to be great, I think, for everybody from their marketing point of view, just overall, as well as their PR. So what we want to try and do is get you thinking about how to work with the media and forward plan so that you can get the most out of those opportunities, because you're all in different business sectors, you're all looking to attract different things, and the different media outlets will have their own agendas, and it's matching what your agenda is to theirs, that the two things cross together. So this morning we're going to go through planning, the content, and then the taking action. So if you've got a pen and paper, and then what I might do after this, if you're watching this on catch up, hopefully I'll have created a worksheet, because I want to see how this flows and the questions. So it's very much interactive. So feel free to jump in, and I'll ask you questions. Danny, I can see you bouncing on your ball. Now I know how it looks when I was bouncing on my ball. Fantastic. So feel free, it's interactive, and I want your feedback. So any questions, and as I say, nothing is ever a silly question. We're all learning. We're all on this growth kind of together, and share ideas as well. So so forward planning, does anybody forward plan already? I know you've all muted yourself, which is great, so you can unmute yourself, but does anybody forward plan currently with their content? And if so, how far? Pale, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I usually schedule a month at a go, but I'm always aware of looking out for the news to see if my posts are relevant and not being insensitive if something's bad's happened maybe in the media. During COVID, I've scaled it back slightly to do every week, if I'm being honest, because you just don't know how things are changing and how things are moving on. So yeah, between a week and a month is usually what I schedule.
Brilliant. Anybody else that schedules or forward plans that wants to share? No, okay. And that's fine. Do you know what? Because the majority of us don't, because we're so busy with everything. But what I'm hoping that this might be good anyway for your overall marketing, but certainly will be great for your PR, because some media outlets, especially trade, if you're B2B, will forward plan a couple of months in advance. So but Payal's point has just been really good, actually, because it's making sure that you can still adapt your content so that it's still topical and not insensitive, because you might have written something 6 months time 6 months ago, and oh my gosh, how could we have predicted what we've gone through? So you would have had to have changed things. So maybe things, when you forward plan that far in advance, have to be just generic in general, and you have to obviously be open to adapting your forward planning list as you're going along. Most publications, the most the publications forward plan in advance is 3 months, and that's what we're going to go through this morning, to how to know who forward plans and how to kind of approach it. So if you've got your pen and paper ready, let's just kind of build your forward plan list now, and your kind of the things that you need to consider. So it's planning first. So it's deciding really what media outlets you're trying to approach. Again, all of you have got slightly different strategies, and some of you may be looking for consumer press, but also business to business and trade journals. They're going to be two different approaches in that the way that you're going to approach it from their timeline. So I want you to write down the media outlets that you are going to be targeting, or that you want to work with, in terms of, when I say the media outlets, the media outlet types. So is it radio? Is it magazines? And if it's magazines, is it consumer magazines? Is it trade magazines? If you're looking at TV, what kind of TV? Is it production companies? Is it the news channels? Just write down where you want to be. And then what we need to do, and this is very similar to, if you haven't done it yet already, you can go back and look at this, and all the worksheets are there. The 6-week publicity challenge is pretty much starting off and doing the first bit of that, because you've always got to come back to matching where you want to be featured to your audience. So it's making sure where you want to be is relevant to the customers that you're trying to attract. it's no point saying you want to be in Forbes magazine if you haven't really got a strong business story or a lifestyle story that matches it. It's no point saying you want to be in, I don't know, try and give an example, in The Sun, even though it's got a massive following, if your customers aren't that demographic profile. So you've got to make sure that you match the media outlet type to the clients that you're trying to attract. Because PR, as I've said so many times, this is about the end goal. It's about what you're trying to achieve. Now, some of you might be just looking to raise your profile. So any media or PR is good PR, because if you're known as a business leader and you give a quote, so there might be some strategies around that, and that's absolutely fine. But this is more about really forward planning your content and your articles in advance. You'll always have to be able to you'll always be able to react to the news, and I still want you to see what's trending and to see what's topical in the news, because that's the quickest way to get publicity. But what I want you to try and do is also try and forward plan. So once you've got your media outlets, which hopefully you kind of all know, has anybody got any questions around that?
I think you and I put that together initially. And the list that you and I compiled when you helped me through, I think that's the list I need, really.
Yeah, possibly is, Janetti, absolutely. And it will evolve and it will change. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. So you've got your list. So we've looked at that already when you came on board with your strategy call. So that's fine. And some of you, I've gone through with quite a few of you, we're building lists. So you've probably got those already. So the next thing to do then is say, right, okay, now I know that those are the media outlets I want. How far do they forward plan? So what is it? Where is it you're going? Are they trade? So have you all got like a list of whether it's trade press, consumer magazines? Have you all written that list? And next to that list, put into the next column along, how far they forward plan. So generally, as a rule of thumb, if it, let's say, if you want to be on the TV news channel, like Central News or something, I'm in the Midlands, as you can hear my Brummie accent, and it's a breaking news story, that's not going to forward plan far in advance. But let's say it's something that it is, I don't know, I'm just picking this out here, Women's International Day. They may forward plan that a month in advance because it's going to be relevant. So something that you know is coming up that's going to be relevant, they will forward plan it. So you can still go to the TV news channels if it's a specific story that's going to be relevant, that you know that comes around every year, that you can ride off the back of, you can forward plan it. Very much, Janetta, with you with I'm so sorry, I can't remember is it Jenny?
Jenny's Day.
Jenny's Day. You can forward plan that very much so, because it's going to be a big day and you've got a lot of content around it, and you may need to forward plan it so people have got time. Always know that the media may always have to just shift it and put it on the back burner. I had it recently. There was a story, it was about a year ago, a story that was going to go out for one of my members, and literally in the Midlands on Central News, and literally I think he was a football manager, passed away. And that was it. Everybody, and he was Aston Villa or Birmingham City, everything got put on the wayside. They literally did a tribute. It was the funeral, and it was just like, oh gosh, all that work, and it just literally, so it does happen, but you can try and obviously forward plan. So put next time to your media outlets how long they are. Now, if you don't know, the easiest thing to do is this, probably sometimes the scariest, is either email them and ask them how far in advance do they forward plan. And at the same time, I'll come back onto this in a bit, you can ask them if they've got a forward features list. Mostly trade magazines will have a forward features list. So they will have, they will plan what they're going to talk about. And it might be then that you can say, right, you can align what you're going to talk about, around their forward features list. It might be that you just have your own forward features list, but look how far in advance. So you might need to pick up the phone and say to them, how far in advance do you actually plan? Mostly trade magazines a couple of months in advance. Consumer and women's magazines like Psychologies or Cosmo or Women's Woman and Home, they're 3 months in advance. So it's good to start thinking that now.
Rachel?
Yeah.
Who would you be picking up the phone to in that case?
You could just speak to, it's a really good question. I think it's the journalists that you're targeting, because they would have, you know, their own agenda. But the things like the trade magazines, Danny, that, you know, especially the B2B trade magazines, there's not many people that work there. So anybody that you've got in the database that you can contact, or just pick up the phone to anyone, just say, look, just wonder if I could speak to one of the journalists, just wonder if you have a forward planning list, you know, so I can help you with some future articles. And they can say, oh no, we don't, but you know, you just strike up, it's a good way to just strike up a conversation as well. Some companies do definitely have forward features lists that you could ask them to email to you, and then you could almost plan around it. Any other questions so far? And then, so it's then making sure, basically, once you've kind of thought about who your media outlets are and how far in advance they forward plan, it's then kind of the difficult bit, which isn't difficult, but is writing your content and planning it out. Because this needs to be a rolling 3 months in advance, really. So even though you're going to do the hard work now and plan out 3 months or 6 months, and when I say plan out the content, I'm not asking you to write all the articles now, because that's going to take forever. And I appreciate in our business, we don't have time. But you'll probably have a feel just for the headlines, whether it's leadership you're going to be talking about, whether it's values you're going to be talking about this month, or whether it's, I don't know, Pale, I'm just using your examples from when we had our conversation yesterday. As you can see, you know, there's branding and entrepreneurship. See, I made a note. If it's those that you're going to forward plan, you know, that's 4 months worth of content that you can talk about. Then there's loads of little offshoots that you can talk about from that. So it's then saying, right, here's my overall theme for the month that I'm going to talk about. And then you've got that then as a forward planner. You can pad it out afterwards. You can pad it out straight away if you wanted to. And the easiest way to do that then is kind of say, right, okay, let's see what people have written about in the past, see what your competitors have written about, see what topics have been talked about in the past. One of the easiest ways to do it as well is go to your trade press or the media outlets that you want to be in and see what they've talked about for the last year. Just spend a bit of time to get inspiration, because that's, you know, why reinvent the wheel? And journalists, we do talk about the same thing all of the time, just wrapped up in a different way. So this is your forward planning for content that's going to be generic, that's relevant to your business, that will attract your customers. So talking about content then, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. And this basically just brings you back to everything you already know that's in the 6-week publicity challenge for you to think about. We've talked about lots of times before, but it's still where we struggle, isn't it? Because, you know, we're busy and it's trying to get inspiration all the time. Have any of you yet downloaded the celebration days in the club? Yeah, perfect. Okay, I've just briefly updated it. So if you haven't, you can go into the Media Matchmaker Club and download that. So I'm just going to screen share with you. So it's just for those who haven't downloaded it yet, it's in the Media Matchmaker Club. You just go down to the resource center, and then it's you click on the list of national celebration days, and basically then you can download the list. What you've got then is the list of all the celebration days. I'd opened one up already in August. And what I would do is just spend a bit of time and just initially go through this list and say, right, okay, what can I make relevant to me? Okay, so I'm going to make that one relevant to me. World Photo Day might be relevant to me. And just go through and say, right, what is relevant to me at this stage? Just literally quickly go through them and then add them in your calendar. And as you'll see in here, you've got some of the hashtags that you'll be able to see. And so you can see what they've talked about in the past. This is a really good opportunity for you to kind of get prepared. Now, they might not be completely relevant to your business, but they might have some relevance where you can kind of ride off the back of it. I don't know, has anybody seen any national days yet that they feel that they could kind of ride off the back of? Well, obviously their World Suicidal Prevention Day is 11th of September. Obviously, Janetta, for you, that's something very much so you could talk about and comment about. Balance Awareness Week, you know, for some of you in there, definitely could kind of talk about that.
There's
A lot of health stuff.
Yeah, there's loads of health stuff. Sorry, what did the other people say? Anne, did you say something as well?
Sorry, I've just seen loads of days that I could, vascular health month.
Yeah.
Just about every other one you went through there, I think I could do something on.
What you've got to think of then is when you're planning that out, you almost want a big piece of paper with your months. And then you want to put in the diary, kind of write out the topics or plan your forward list, and then get the diary and then put the national days that you feel are relevant, and then put your days, and then you need to work backwards. Once you've got your content, you'll need to work backwards, and we'll go through that in a minute. But there's loads of days in here that, you know, I'm sure that you could just ride off the back of. European Mobility Week, you know, I mean, there's like Wheel Reflexology, there's absolutely loads in here. You know, just check it out, because these are some national days. They might be more American based rather than UK based. So it's best to just do a bit of research first, but this could potentially be a great opportunity. Now, when you're approaching someone for the national days, always think, is it a week? Is it a month? Is it a day? How is it celebrating? Because if it's going to be a day, it's not going to get covered in the consumer press, because in the consumer magazines, because the consumer magazines titles are for a month. So they're not going to cover just one day. So you've got to go to the relevant media outlets that just do short stories that are relevant to that day. So radio is absolutely brilliant. Regional newspapers, possibly if it's a week, but certainly the daily newspapers absolutely could be done. But all online, do not forget online, could be absolutely brilliant for that. So look at what national days you can ride off the back of. Once you've got your theme for the month that you're going to talk about, and sometimes it's hard, isn't it, to think about 12 topics that we can kind of lead with. You don't have to, by the way, these are just suggestions for you. It's then having kind of shoot-offs of that theme that you're going to talk about. So for us, it's forward features. So we've just been talking about forward features all month, you know, so it's just having a theme around it. And then what you need to do is kind of think about, right, okay, have I got any case studies that are relevant to that theme that I can use? Are there any kind of industry updates around that theme? What's going on in the industry? How does that match a lot? How does that align about it? Could I get any guests in to talk about this theme? You know, have I got any guest blogs that I can bring in? Is there any success stories, how I've helped people around this theme? You know, so think, these are easy ways that you can make it work for yourself. And can I just give general advice on it? So there's lots of ways you can kind of make it work by just sticking to a natural theme. But obviously you need to be able to talk about it. If you are going to send something, a forward list off to the media, and they say, okay, so where are we now? So we are now in July, August, September, October. So the magazines are going to be working on October, November now. So they may come back and say, absolutely brilliant, we'd love to talk about what you've got to talk about. Can you send us a 500 article? So then you're going to be like, right. So you might have to, you know, write that article straight away, but that's a nice position to be in. They might even ask you to submit an article for approval. But again, you don't mind doing that if you've got an interest in the media outlet that you want to go to. So think about some of those in terms of, you know, stories, case studies, not what's trending. This isn't going to work for forward planning, what's trending. The overall feel of where we're at absolutely could still, because this obviously pandemic and the way we're changing business is very much relevant. But because it's changing so quickly, I think Payal made a really good point, is if you're going to talk about it from a business point of view, and it's a magazine that's going to come out, a trade mag in 2 months' time, we don't really know. We can't really predict the economy, can we, at the moment? We think we're obviously deeply in a recession. You know, there's going to be so many redundancies, but we cannot predict the turns that we're having in this crazy world at the moment. So you have to keep generic. Any questions so far reference kind of the content and how to plan that out? Anything at all? Love it when you all go quiet. I think I love it when you all go quiet. I'm used to us all chatting. Okay, great. Does that make sense to you? And do you feel that's something you could do without too much, oh God, I've got to sit and do this? Yeah. What's the best way you think you're going to go about this? Because again, these sessions are great to give inspiration, but then we go off and something else comes in day to day, and then we are literally, you know, what's the best way to action this? Pale, yeah.
So for me, I think, as we sort of touched on yesterday as well, it will be about having potentially 12 sheets of paper in front of me for each month and just doing it. But for my content planning, then I use Trello, which is just it's a great software that you can use, and you can move things around, but you'll always be able to see what you've done because you can archive it. And it just helps with planning as well. So I think it's going to be a combination. I physically need to see it on paper first, and then I will just translate everything onto Trello, on my Trello board, and just have a separate board for this. I think it would work quite well.
That's great. Trello is great. I use Trello too. It's free for anybody if they want to use it, and it is absolutely brilliant because you have different boards, don't you?
Yeah, and it's just as easy as moving stuff across as you've done it. So you don't have to, like if it was on a post-it, you would lose that post-it or you'd screw it up and then you don't know that you've done it. But you can date stamp things, you can do so much with it. So that's worth looking at, everybody. If you haven't got Trello, it's a really great app to help project plan as well.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's great. Anybody else, any other ideas on inspiration to or how they think they're going to do it?
Planning the content out is quite easy for me because I've had so much of it that putting out 12 months concepts and do that is easy to do, and then adapt it. Most of it's around the same theme, so it's the same sort of thing. I like these and different colours and little boxes. I've even got little boxes to do it, and I love post-it notes. You can see my upside down boards behind me because I've moved my desk and now I need to turn them the other way around. So the content isn't an issue, and I like these because they can move around, and I actually find when I'm writing content or looking for ideas, it's easier, the ideas flow better when I write than when I'm typing. It's a different experience. So I did have a question. You keep talking about articles with this. What other things would they be interested in having rather than just an article? And they do anything other than just, this is what I'm doing, or this is what we could be looking at, or I'm commenting on it. I mean, is there anything other content-wise other than just article?
Well, it's down to the media outlet. It's a good point, because so some of the media outlets, especially if it's online, may want video content as well,
Mm-hmm.
So, or they might want you to be part of a podcast. So it's to match the media outlet that you're going to. So if it's radio, obviously it's a radio interview. If it's a BBC radio channel, it's going to be a debate or an open conversation. If it's a commercial radio station, it's probably just a soundbite, but that's not really a forward planning because that's like a news bulletin that they're going to talk about. With the trade, most trade press magazines will be online as well. So it might be online content, and also give consideration to when you do actually write the content, matching, again, we're going over old ground, but it's important because sometimes we forget. It's matching the kind of the length of their articles. I spoke to a journalist yesterday and she was going to come on today, but she's full of hay fever. And it was interesting because she put a post yesterday in the Media Matchmaker group. She wants people to contribute to her online holistic website. And she wants people to contribute articles between, I think she said 750 to 1,000 words, which is quite lengthy, really. So everybody's different, in what they want, because all audiences are different, so it's just seeing what they do and what's on there. It might be as well that you could be a contributor, a regular contributor too. The fact that you're showing that you're forward planning, you could become a regular contributor. I know, Janet, that's something could be great for you for what you do, because you're already kind of positioned as the expert in your industry. You've earned your stripes. A lot of you have, with what you're doing. So, you could be a regular contributor. Were you going to say something, Anne? No, I don't think she's chatting. So, so there's lots of different ways, Colette, on why, maybe what they're looking for. Does that answer that?
Yeah, to a degree. What do you include in an article? Something like a checklist or a quiz or something, so it was kind of interactive with it, as opposed to just read content. Is that?
Yeah, you could do, absolutely. And people love stuff like that, or a survey, or a success story, or a testimonial, or a how it's changed my life. You know, it again, always be inspired by the media outlet that you're going to. Have a look and see what are they writing about. Some are just very technical, if that's your business and it's just technical writing. Some are life-changing stories, so it's all about how I transform my life or how I overcome adversity. So you're just matching, but you can match the media outlets and around your theme. And again, with this, you can do the quantity because you've got, those of you who've got access to the media database, you can do the quantity and send it out that way. But I want you to do the quality too, so you know what's coming up and, you know, to forward plan and speak to them in advance. And that kind of brings us on really to the taking action. So we've kind of talked about the planning out, we've talked about the content, and it's the taking action now. So yes, I'd absolutely advise you to sit down and however you do it, we're all different. Some of us will do it online with Trello. Some will have pieces of paper. Some will have Post-it notes. That's fine, whatever works for you. For me, as some of you know, or most of you know, I hate writing because I'm dyslexic and I just got a block. But now I've just started dictating everything into voice notes. It's so accurate. It's absolutely brilliant. So I just voice record into notes. I've got I'm all Apple, and it's just brilliant. And then you know, I can use it from there, the content. So it doesn't become really too hard to do, and it's a great way to repurpose as well. If let's say you just read an article on somewhere and you're just inspired by it, you can just dictate it straight away, your version of it, your take on it, and still reference back to it. So we all learn in different ways. So taking action, and this is the bit then, so hopefully you've kind of said, right, now I know now what my themes are, and I've got the next 6 months. And in a minute, we'll come back to just literally writing out from your gut feeling 6 months worth of topics. So this is really, if you've done your bio already and your introductory email, you've probably already done this. And if so, happy days, because you've already written about the topics that you can talk about. So I'm not asking you to kind of think about things that you're not in your comfort zone with. So those could be topics that you could talk about. You just need to perhaps pad them out then a bit more. So one of the easiest ways is to, if you've got access to the media database, is to send them an email and ask them and say, look, I'm forward planning for the year. Just wondered if you have a forward features list. First, you could ask them for a forward features list and see what they come back with. And then you can then approach them and say, look, just forward planning my content. These are the topics I'm going to be talking about. So you just give them an overall headline. Are any of these of interest to you? Yes, no, maybe, come back, da, 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 da. But at least you've got it planned. Because what you want to be able to do is, and take any old content off that you've got, any blogs or anything that's on your website, because they may go back and say, but you've just talked about that. So you need to make sure that it's all relevant new news stories. But you will know that then in September, you're going to be talking about values. So you don't really want to be talking about it now short term. Obviously, if a trending story comes up or a topical story and that's your expertise, of course you're going to talk about it, but it's not going to be your main topic that you're going to be focusing on. So that you know that then when September comes, the short-term media, you can talk about values, and you've already planned your long-term media as well. So that everything comes in together. We see this all the time, don't we, with, let's think about how they launch movies, and we only ever get to see the celebrities being interviewed when they want to launch a movie. But isn't it interesting that that same interview has come out in Cosmo and it's come out in all the magazines, yet they're also there on the news, doing the TV junket interviews, because it's all been planned out precisely so that it all fits together. And that's all you guys are looking to do. And this really should then make it easier for your marketing overall, because PR is just a form of your marketing. And there's great inspiration out there. There's great tools that you can plan this through, you know, whether it's Hootsuite or Buffer. You know, there's also loads of inspiration you can get from people where you can download articles and things and suggestions. But I think you pretty much know what you want to write about. But ask as well, you know, ask the topics, ask questions to your audience. What's your 5 biggest problems that you're dealing with at the moment? Those are topics that you might want to talk about to people to get inspiration. So you need to approach the media and ask them if they've got a forward features list. and then also approach them at the same time or a separate time, because it's always good to have a reason to go back to them and say to them, here's my forward fix, just wonder if you're interested in talking about these topics. And obviously make sure that you plan in the timeline to the media outlets, because as I said, radio aren't going to be interested, BBC and anything that's going to be a month, 2 months in advance, it's literally a couple of days or a week in advance that they're going to want to consider it. And that's pretty much it, really. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It's like any of this, it's just doing it and taking the action with it. And yeah, you're going to share something?
Can I just ask a question? And I know this would be a really fantastic problem to have, so I'm just sort of, it's just popped into my head. If you sent an article off to, say, half a dozen or even a dozen different outlets, what happens if 2 or 3 of them want to take it, and then there's sort of a conflict because people don't want to print things that their competitive magazine perhaps has got, say? I mean, I'm very far from having that problem, as we both know, but
it's a really good question. It's not you're not offering it as an exclusive. You could approach them to say, I'd love to be an exclusive contributor, and then you need to make the decision. We did actually have this with one of my members, where she sent an introductory email out, and she got asked to write independent articles, and it was just a small online magazine. It just wasn't worth her giving that amazing content for just such a small audience. So you see a news story that comes out, it's not just in the Sun or the Guardian or the Times, it's on news, it's reflected everywhere. So don't worry about that. It's about the timing. If they say to you, can you write us a specific article that's exclusive, then you're not giving them the article detail at this stage, don't forget. You're just asking them to forward plan, and then you could write the article for them. If they ask you, we want to use this as an exclusive story, if let's say you're going to be talking about gut health, well, that's your main topic. You know, you might give them one case study that you're going to give exclusive, but then you can talk about something else. You're not embargoed to talk to anybody else about it. So you won't have that as a problem unless they say to you, we'd like you to be our in-house contributor, and then that content is just for them. But like you say, that's a nice position to be in. And if it happens, absolutely great. You know, there's a lady I know, she does spiritual cards, readings and things like that. And she's now writing content for one of the national newspapers. So that content is just specific to them. But at that point, if you get to that point, they may be in a position to be able to pay you for the editorial as well, which again would be a nice position to be in, wouldn't it? Any other questions? Okay, so what I'd love you to do, if you're watching this on catch up, hopefully you've kind of now written your plan, you know what content you're going to take action. I'm just going to ask you now to just spend literally a few minutes and just write the next 6 months of headlines down. So these just could be the topics that you can talk about. If these you feel that you want to send it out to media outlets, by the way, don't write it down just for the sake of it. But if you feel that you can, it's a theme that you can approach as a forward features list to the media, I just want you to write 6 down that you should just be able to rattle out. So I'm just going to literally give you a couple of minutes to do this. Okay, hopefully you're getting to the point where you've written some out. Is there anybody that would like to share their Ideas? Anybody?
I've got one.
You've got, have you just gone blank, have you, Janetta?
Yeah. I've
Okay.
got one.
So what's your one?
I haven't got one.
Oh, you
I
haven't got one?
No.
You haven't got one. Okay. So
It feels to me like I should be waiting to see what's trending. That's where I'm perhaps stuck.
okay. So therefore, let me ask you in a different way. What are the top 4 reasons or 6 reasons people come to you for help with?
Okay, so it would be that.
It could be that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, obviously anxiety and challenge and trauma, from eating disorders to OCD to anxiety, depression.
Brilliant. So those are your topics as your theme. If you want them to be, of course, it's what feels right in your business, you know, because you are very, and but also, Janetta, you've got your 8 steps. And within those 8 steps, all of you have done this hard work. And think sometimes we think, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. You talk about, if I asked you to do a keynote, if you're a speaker, what are the slides in your keynote that you're talking about? Those are your articles. That's your content of how you're helping people. So that's absolutely fine if we just get stuck. Yes, of course, you can see what's trending, but you're still you're reacting to a trending news story. And so it's really the problems that people are coming to you for. So hopefully, therefore, you've got your 4 to 6 that you could talk about. And talk about from the heart. So it's not just maybe just the anxiety or the depression, you know, with your 8 steps, there's different elements to your steps, isn't there? So that it's maybe those that you can go and deep dive into, you know.
Yeah, the 7 steps are,
sorry.
There's vocational, which is work, there's financial, there's social, family, there's mental, there's physical, and then there's faith and trust on a spiritual level.
Brilliant. So you've got lots of content. Sometimes I think we're trying to think of new stuff, but I'm not asking you to think of anything new. I'm asking you just to think of things you naturally talk about that I would like to know if I'd never met you before, or you'd like to share with me, or if I can. So yeah, it's a good way to think about it. Why do people come to you? What's their challenges? What's their problems? Danny, have you got your list? What's your kind of gut feeling on any headlines that you perhaps or forward features list?
So the 3 main sort of topics that I would cover would be anxiety, stress, and confidence. Brilliant. So generally most things will revert around those. So I thought it would be something along the lines of like, which type of stress do you have and how to change it? Something like that.
Perfect.
Or how to build confidence one day at a time, something like that.
Yeah, perfect. And then you can take that confidence and the stress thing and then make it relevant to where you want to go with your audience. And in terms of, if it's women's magazines, it could just be a generic overall, you know, or how they're coping with homeschooling or something like that. You can make it very relevant to the audience, or maybe if it's stress from the business people on how now they're setting up a home office. I know there's a lot of people saying, we're missing that connection, aren't we? You know, we're not getting out and having the connection anymore. And people, you know, all for the over 70s, you know, I know my mum and dad. There's so many ways then that you can adapt that story once you've got that stress and anxiety for that month, on how you can kind of feed that story out. So yeah, great. Okay. Andrew, have you got any kind of lists, any headlines that you would perhaps feel right to forward plan or to talk about?
Bit of a wild guess, but there's the hidden costs of trauma, stressed parents and ADD kids, resilience in your unconscious mind, trauma and relationships, letting negative emotions and memories go. But I really, I actually need to sit down and do the 6-week publicity challenge and do some deep thinking about how to put all these things together. I've been very focused the last month or 2 on kind of some professional training and certification. So I've really been focusing on building skills, not on raising my profile.
Yeah.
So now I need to start to put some energy into this other thing.
Yeah, brilliant.
Although I did do an email blast to 533 producers, editors, what have you. I was on BBC West Midlands morning show one Sunday for 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I got sort of a guest article / interview on resilience in a yoga magazine that's going to come out probably in September.
Fantastic. Well done. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so
Yeah. And,
so I think I need to figure out how to maybe just take that particular series of emails and that list and just keep going after that list.
Yeah,
Until
absolutely.
people tell me to go away.
And just have a reason to talk to them, absolutely, and to go back, because your lists are your list. You can't change who you want to go to. You might broaden it out a bit more, but you know who your target audience is. That's going to, once you've built that list in there, that pretty much is, it's just giving them reason to go back to them and relevant content, but also definitely start with asking them about forward planning. Have you forward plan? You know, what do you have a forward planning list? Or forward features list it's called, and then here's my forward features list, that kind of thing. Jana, what about you? Do you have any kind of headlines or kind of content that you feel that you could forward plan and use?
I've got a lot. So now is a good time to start a business in the beauty industry. Starting with the pros and cons of starting with one product versus many, CBD and opportunities in the beauty industry, repositioning a heritage beauty brand, building a direct-to-consumer brand in the beauty industry. So I've got lots of different angles, actually, that I can take it from, thinking about the type of problems people come to me with.
Brilliant. Fantastic. No, that's great. Well done. Rachel, how about you for your company? Or Nell, should I say?
So Nell's a physio. So I was looking, you know, it looks like everyone's going to be working from home for quite a while, so be looking at things like setting up at home workstations and how to do that, and things you can do at home to help your back. But then also, as people start to go back to gyms and stuff like that, it's, you know, how to look after yourself if you're just coming back to exercise after being at home for the last 6 months.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of kind of like injury proofing and that sort of thing.
And that's a really good point. And what I'm going to share with you, Rachel, that those are good points. And what you have to be careful of is those are points for now, not for 3 months, 6 months time, because everyone will have been back at work. Do you know what I mean? So just think those things through, but really good. Yes. And they're great articles, and there's the stuff you can get out now and probably in the next month or so. But, yeah, and even the trade press, they're going to be talking about, you know, now how we're adapting now. So keep it very much generic on how we're now all adapting, and that we're finding, so almost preempt, you're going to know the problems it's going to be in 2 months' time when people are sat at their not proper chairs, or, you know, and they're getting backache and stuff like that. So preempt what's going to happen in 3 to 6 months' time. If someone sits at a rubbish chair, or they're slunched over there. Do you know what I mean? Preempt. Yeah. We're already seeing an increase in back problems. So preempt. You put yourself in the future of what's going to happen in 6 months' time, as far as you can. Obviously, we can't predict exactly what it's going to be, but you know there's going to be challenges with backs, and it's very true. People are going to be all over the place. So yes, make it relevant, but also think about the future. Yeah. Perfect. Anne, have you got any headlines that you can talk about?
Yes, heart health, and there's quite a few months and days on that I saw in your list. There's also one about, it was just entitled organic, so that's quite, I can write on that. Gut health, diabetes, sports performance, mental health as it relates to gut health, and something about why traditional diets don't work in the long term, but detoxing your body to lose weight does. So something like that, just a different slant on weight loss.
Brilliant. And it's everything you know. You know, it's everything you know, and you can talk about it from the heart, and it's just planning it in the future way, so you know where you are clearly the months ahead. And it's something I'm going to do as well, by the way, because I think it's good for all of us to do, you know. So yeah, great. Caroline, how about for you?
I haven't I got interrupted with a call from a client, but I've got lists of things, but my biggest stumbling block is every time you email something through, what are you opening with? When you've done your bio and your thing, then you don't send that every time, but maybe keep the bit at the bottom. But you say, are you interested in? I mean, they must get fed up with the same old, would this be of interest for you? What is the catchphrase?
It's just headline.
You're open with.
Yeah, no, and I can see why you would say that, but it just got to get to the point, Caroline. It's like the headline. So many journalists come back to me and say, it's the so what. We want to see the so what in the headline. So it could be, give me a few examples of what you're going to talk about, or there could be a theme for you.
I don't know, self-care could be the new healthcare.
Brilliant. Great. Okay, so just put that in the press release. So just put that in the headline. Self-care could be the new healthcare. 10 tips to da 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 da, or whatever. If it's going to be a forward, if you're going to write and be specific, so the specific email to introduce is an introductory email, so that's valid. Asking for a forward features list is, do you have a forward features list? So I can work with you and help. I serve my customer and make them show that you understand their audience. So, our readers are the same. I've got content that I think is going to be of value. Do you have a forward features list? Or our readers are the same, our customers are the same. I've got a forward features list. Are any of these of interest to you? So it's just adapting the headline. If it's in terms of like a press release, it's just literally the article headline. So, for example, I sent something out for the journalists through the database, and it got picked up literally within minutes, and it was just the headline of the press release that went out. So don't worry too much about that. I think we worry that they're going to remember us and go, oh God, here, another email. They get 200-300 emails a day. They will literally just go through it and so when you're introducing, so you could put if it's an introductory, you could put stress expert introduction, anxiety expert introduction. You need to grab them, because if they're then thinking, oh, stress, or pandemic expert, whatever you're going to talk about, make it simple for them. And don't be fearful of it. It's a shame your time is going to come because you've sent a few things out and not had many bites back yet, but it is working and it does work. So we've just got to tweak and get it right. Or it's just got to be timely.
Yeah.
Have I missed anybody? Payal, have you got your forward features list?
I have. I've done it slightly different, so I don't know if it's right or not, but I've given myself, I've done 7 headings actually, because I know that I can work off them. So it's things like, if I list the sort of entrepreneur values, branding, leadership, networking, mentoring women in business. So for example, off the entrepreneur, I would do something. So we all know that, great startups happen during a recession or times of change. So Uber, Instagram, things like that. So that would be, can we find the next entrepreneur in this? And another one would be the changing business landscape, how offices will not be offices anymore. It's got to be more about experience. And even the shops, Mary Porter's talks about that a lot. So I've got my headings and I've got lots of little things that I can talk about. I think I just need to streamline it. But it was your point on, so I don't send something out to talk about values for September if I'm launching or doing something now and the content's already there. So that's what I've got to kind of jig. So
because they're
with my website,
if you're writing about values now and you send it out to the media that's 3 months ahead, they're seeing that as an old news story.
Yeah, so that's I think that's where I need to. I've got my headings, and that breaks it down nicely. Yeah. And I think then it's a case of working out, because my website's about to launch, and that will have quite a lot of content, which we talked about for the roundtable and podcasts and things like that. So I need to make sure then it's not seen as old news.
Yeah.
But the guests that I've got on my podcast are really great people, and I want that to be current news.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
It's having
well, just to give you an example, it is.
Yeah.
It is. The media forward plan, and it's all changed. The media's always changing, as we know. And what we want to do is make sure that you are kind of adapting to how they're working. Now, a couple of years ago, the media always had forward planning lists, and this was part of a service that we offered. But we don't add it as part of the service now. We don't charge for it, but I still access to some of the media do, because it's just not many people do it. But you'll see a button if you've got access to this, but it may not be switched on for you, and you're not paying extra £50 a month for it. But I could like search for, I could say search for business, and I can search for business in a forward features list in the B2B magazines, and click search, and then that's going to pull up the businesses that have kind of forward plan. And again, you'll see these are quite old because a lot of people just aren't doing it anymore. So let's have a look at, I don't know, one. Let's have a look. I'm just trying to think what we've got here. Pension age. See, it's old stuff here. But you can see here, they've got their lists here. Can you see all this, everybody?
Yeah.
So the theme, the end game, spotlight, retirement products, investment theme, fixed income, working together, trusteeship, looking ahead. So that's how they're forward planning, kind of thinking about it. Let's just do the same and see whether there's anything to do with health, because I think a lot of you are health, so only 5. So, okay, so health club management. So they're talking about, oh, this is obviously health club, so this would be good for one of the ladies at the gyms. So they're talking about sound and entertainment in November, flooring, fire and ice, finance, core training. In October, they're talking about strength training, software. So they're just doing exactly the same thing. So some of these have forward lists and know exactly what they're going to talk about, so that they can get their experts and their content all in place. This is what the media do. So, you know, it's just getting you to think exactly the same like the media do. Now, you probably won't get TV that would forward plan. I doubt very much. Let's have a look. Let's just put, no, I don't know.
So Rachel, that example that you've just shown where they've planned to sort of November this year, would they already have all the content for that? Or is that just absolutely, that's why they've done all of this?
Yes, so that people can approach them with the stories and to know what people. So if you ask them, you wrote to them and asked them the forward planning list, this is probably what they would send to you.
This is what we get.
So then you could say, I can talk about boxing fitness and how not to do it or what to do, you know, and talk about it, you know, and adapt and write them a story that's relevant. So, you know, they have their own agenda and it's fitting your agenda around theirs and vice versa.
So can I ask, I'm on the monthly 150. Is this included in that?
No. So it's not a service now, because as I say, it's just not, the media don't tend to update this as much as they used to. So when I'm saying to you, when you can ask for forward features lists, I don't know roughly now. It used to be really traditional, but because the media's changed so much in that they're online now, it's ever moving. The media now are more reactive than proactive. They used to lead, they used to know exactly. So it's a bit of a suck it and see with everybody, but some still do forward plan. So it's definitely worth asking them, but certainly for you, to make sure that you match your stories that break, you need to forward plan. So think you are a movie star and you are launching your film. You know that you were going to forward plan it so it gets featured everywhere 3 months in advance, and then that you can also be on TV and radio to talk about it too. So no, this isn't included in the, I've just got access to it because it's an old feature. And it's mostly the B2B magazines. So let's see if there's any consumer magazines. Sometimes the consumer magazines do forward plan. But mostly, have a look, see what comes up. Let's just see what we get. Oh, no results. Okay, so yeah, so it's not listed there, but it was just to give you an example, really. And I don't think influencers would forward plan. They might do. You know, you might get, because you're forward planning, but this is pretty good sensitive stuff that you're doing, you know, that you're doing as a planner, as a PR person, you're thinking it all through. Not everybody does that, but hopefully this is going to make your life so much easier that it all fits in together. Any final questions? Anybody want to share anything? Any of the points I've missed? Did I miss you out in terms of your headlines? I'm sorry. Did you come up with your headlines?
Came up with a few, yeah.
Okay.
Why your leaders need to be comfortable with the F word.
Okay.
Of course, his feelings in my thing, not the one that you're originally thinking of.
Yeah.
Why leadership doesn't develop leaders and what does. And business to business, competitive advantages are in the business to business for leaders or for any business organisation would be something, but it's why your leaders need a personal competitive advantage. So it makes it about them. And then, of course, because it's EI, there are various different competencies under that are pillars of building your emotional intelligence. So I can take each one of those and write something about it. So, you know, all the different competencies that come under that, depends on which model you pick. There's up to 20 of them. So, and I use 4 or 5 different models.
Brilliant.
So,
fantastic. That's really good. So hopefully all of you feel that you've got your content. Some of you might still be stuck. That's okay. You just need to sit down and have a bit of quiet time and try and forward plan it the best way that works for you. You don't have to do this, but hopefully it will make life so much easier for you that you're in line then with the media. I'm going to stop recording this now, and I'm going to don't go off just yet. But if you're watching this on catch up, hopefully you've downloaded the worksheet. I will do a worksheet for you so you can write it all out. Hopefully it's been helpful for you, and I will see you all in the Facebook group. I'm just going to stop recording this now, and I'll come on to you guys